any questions for either generically the panel or a particular panel member that you want to ask a question to, please feel free to put it in the chat and we'll try to go through as many questions as we can. But of course, panel members can also later on always go back to LinkedIn and answer if we're not able to address everything today. So let's get started. Tom, you're first up. Tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody. Really happy to be here. My name's Tom. I currently run my own consulting business called TW Pinder Consulting, helping agencies really kind of get a handle on what's going on in the international education sector, help training their staff, doing market research, and really kind of any assistance I can provide to help agencies and universities alike improve what they do and provide better service to students. I've always worked in higher education. I've previously worked at institutions here in the UK, and I've worked for agencies before. So I like to think I can kind of appreciate the conversation from both sides of the table. And as I say, these days I use that experience to help agencies be the best that they can be.
Great. Lovely to hear from you, Tom. Next, we have Tam. Tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tam, and I'm from Vietnam. Previously, I have been working in education technology field for nearly 10 years as in holding manager position in different functions. And then right now, I am doing master program in learning education technology in Finland and focusing in human AI interaction and also AI literacy. And I'm also a founder of a new edtech that's focusing on developing self-regulation skills for parents and kids. And I'm really look forward to fruitful discussion today. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Lovely, brilliant. Thank you so much, Tam. Our next panel member, Ashwin. Let's hear from you.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Ashwin, Dr. Ashwin Mehta. I'm a learning technology and AI strategist with just over a decade of experience in this field. I have an MBA and a PhD in learning technology adoption, and mostly what I do is management consulting around strategy. So whether that's technology strategy for learning, AI, digital twins, blockchain, any advanced application of technology that has the potential to support or augment or transform human capital.
Excellent. And our last speaker, Naila. Let's hear from you.
Oh, hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Naila Siddiqui Kamal. I'm a gynecologist in gynae oncology, which is my specialist area. And I am an enthusiast for engagement with anything which is disruptive in technologies, because I believe that the speed of change is so rapid. And in particular, artificial intelligence has got a huge role to play, and I've been championing that over the last 7 years. However, I have been in technology-enabled healthcare delivery for much longer. I'm associated with Imperial College, senior lecturer there, Imperial College London, UK, as well as the National Health Service, where I currently work and see gynae cancer patients.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, panel members, for introducing yourself briefly. I think we can dive straight into our first topic of discussion, exploring some opportunities. So how do you believe AI is reshaping teaching and learning across Asia in terms of how AI could enhance the classroom, curriculum design, teaching methods? What are some of the opportunities you believe that are there? And let's this time start with Tam.
I think that it is really great opportunity because AI, artificial intelligence, will be able to support, augment humans' capacity in various tasks, especially for teachers. For teaching and learning, I think that it's focusing in both in K-12 level and also higher education, and also in workforce education in different professional fields. So AI will, especially when generative AI started to become popular, the skills of the speed of change and the impact of AI, and especially generative AI, will be very enormous in every field.
So Ash, would you like to comment on that, or any thoughts from your end following on what Tam said?
Yeah, I think we can, we first of all differentiate between AI and generative AI being the newest thing that's causing the impetus for discussion. With generative AI, we have a reduction in the barrier to entry. So it's a lot easier for people across the world to get access to advanced technology that they didn't have. And this gives us kind of three areas of opportunity if you think about short, medium, and long term. So the short-term opportunity is that the market has almost exploded in terms of small vendors, startups, platforms, government initiatives, things that are providing tool sets for enterprises, schools, universities to use. And the immediate effect, the short-term effect of these things is to reduce the cost base of learning and development. So it's easier to make content more quickly. It doesn't really change the paradigm of learning, but we're still looking at that reduction of cost base. The kind of medium-term application or the medium-term opportunity is around better learning experiences, reducing the burden on teachers and learners through the use of things like virtual agents or collaborative models, which are highly contextual. And of course, Otermans has something in this space. And then the longer term opportunity is around the whole scale transformation of what learning actually means when we implement it. So we're looking at the enriched use of data. We're looking at vastly different learning experiences, just in time access to really contextual and highly personalized information. And these things form a trajectory of transformation, which not only changes what we're doing in learning and development, but it also has tangential effects around the democratization of access and things like that. So I think there are lots and lots of opportunities, but it's probably helpful to think about a short, medium, and long-term trajectory on these things.
Thanks, Ashwin. I saw the other panel members heavily nodding on some of the points you raised. So maybe if, Tom, I go first to you, then to Naila, and then to Tam to add on your points of view or any other things you think are relevant for the audience to know at this stage.
Yeah, thank you. Certainly based on a lot of what was just being said there, I'm looking at some of the more the practical implementation of these things in different regions with a particular focus on East Asia, which is where a lot of what I'm going to talk about is going to come from today. And we see things where the technology that's being talked about here is underpinning those kind of tangible elements of progress and tangible representations of what's being done in China. For example, probably, when we talk about East Asia, we do euphemistically often just mean China, which can be a bit of a misstep, but I shall use it in this example all the same. Things like the 1,000 Talents Programme, which is one programme from the Ministry of Education in combination with other government departments, basically putting out the desire for universities to engage more with the promotion of AI tech and AI-focused courses in their course portfolios. The result of that is that in the last couple of years, majors containing the name AI technology or variations thereof have actually been approved at over 100 Chinese universities. So you can see that in just one region or one country within one region, the actual tangible progress that's being implemented at learning institutions where students are now going into them to learn not just how AI might relate to an existing course, let's say business or mathematics or engineering in itself, but actually AI courses are being taught specifically in and of themselves, and that's only going to continue to grow.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Tom. Naila, what about your perspective on teaching and learning and, how AI is reshaping that, maybe potentially, especially from a medical education point of view, as you're very much in that space. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, two things. First of all, when we refer to Asia, some people's perception might be that we are talking about, the developing world countries and areas where possibly there are many challenges. But if you look at geographically, the countries that come under Asia, and 61% of world's population is in that area, are such countries like China, Japan, India, South Korea, Singapore. All are leading countries where AI has really flourished, and initiatives have been taken much quicker than many of the Western countries that where we are talking about AI being, talked about now. So in healthcare, obviously there is a huge potential, and when overall there is support from the national policies to support the usage of these technology, and in particularly in education and the healthcare, then you can see there is huge potential. As my colleague here had mentioned, that there's been a absolute explosion of AI or generative AI based applications and many different solutions. However, we need to on the other side, we need to be very careful of what we select and what do we use, so that there is no burnout of people's enthusiasm and engagement to this technology.
Excellent. Thank you, Naila. Tam, what about you? How is that, maybe particularly also in Vietnam, where you are based? Any thoughts on that in terms of AI and teaching and learning from your point of view? I'm not able to hear you. Is that just me, or does everybody else have the same problem?
Yeah.
Oh, now you're back.
Can you hear
Yes.
me now?
Yeah,
okay.
Brilliant.
So I think that from Vietnam, I would say that AI in teaching and learning has very slowly been adopted, especially after generative AI is introduced. But before that, actually, since 2015, I think 2015, the private sector education technology has adopted earlier version of AI in different education technology products. For example, adopted voice recognition to help in products that can help learners to practice pronunciation, English pronunciation better, or adapt the learning content to help learners to fill the knowledge hole. But generative AI actually brings a whole new level of user experience of authentic and also can create more authentic communication with chatbots. So I think that with generative AI introduction at the end of 2022, it brings a lot more opportunities. But in Vietnam, I think that right now, in terms of the policy, the question is who is driving the change in Vietnam and who will contribute. I would say three things, three key points from our country. The first, I think that the national strategies and policy is very important. That if a nation, for example, in Vietnam, and I know that right now in many Asian countries like Singapore, Thailand, or Japan and Korea, etc., and especially like China, India has developed national strategy to develop AI in the country, and within that frameworks, human resource development, it's the key points. So in education, I think that the question is how to develop the workforce for the future of AI. Then we need to deal with fundamental questions like of the education system, that what do we need to teach students, and how teachers can use new technologies like generative AI to improve teaching and learning experiences, not just using that as a technology tool that is so popular that they try and then they don't know how to really utilize those tools. So in utilizing technology, mindset and the pedagogy improvement for teachers is still very important. So teaching with AI, it's something needs to be put into national programs, and AI literacy for everyone, including policymakers, school leaders, higher education institutions to K-12 levels, and then teachers. And another perspectives I think very important is parents. So it needs holistic strategy and framework.
Excellent. Again, I saw lots of our panel members nodding, and just picking up a point that Naila raised as well. Naila mentioned Singapore. Now, Tam, you also mentioned Singapore again. Yes, looking at training the population with the relevant AI skills, bringing AI literacy to society is indeed a very important and crucial factor now that we're moving into this. Well, society is now moving into this world of AI, and it becomes much, much more embedded within our daily lives. And we actually are now realizing that. And this is something we in OI have also seen when we've taught students with AI in 4 countries in the Asian region. So I think it's a crucial factor that we embed that within that. Maybe Ashwin, is there anything you want to add to that about AI literacy in the different countries that we have been discussing?
Yeah, so I think AI literacy goes hand in hand with data literacy and also with digital literacy. And one of the things that's a little bit more unique about Asia than, for example, the EU, is there is a greater distance between those who have access to high-powered computing and have access to devices that are personal devices that they can use with sufficient broadband and sufficient stability of power, and they have sufficient digital skill to be able to utilize those devices in a way that leverages AI and leverages data to get the outcome that they want. And that's something that in the UK, for example, we kind of take that for granted, that's ubiquitous. Everybody has that. And when you start to move into different regions of the world, so Latin America or Sub-Saharan Africa or Asia, you start to see a disparity between these things. And one of the things that Tam was mentioning around having some of these national strategies that start to address some of these things, it starts to level the playing field a little bit. In the corporate and enterprise space, we still have that luxury of having stability in devices and having suitable and sufficient skills to be able to use those devices for teaching and for learning. One of the things that is almost perennial, it comes up every time there is a new technology, and that is, do teachers have sufficient skill to be able to leverage that technology for the pedagogies that they choose when they are delivering teaching, when they are adapting their teaching strategies, and when learners are adapting their learning strategies. So this is something that we also need to keep an eye on with AI. But I think some of the disparities in population access also mean that we have to think slightly differently about how we implement things in Asia.
Tom, I see you nodding a lot there. Any points to add? Particularly, so you nodding when Ashwin was talking about teacher training and in the use of AI, but also students using AI and how we can teach students to use the AI tools in the right and responsible way. But in order to do that, the teachers need to be trained first, of course, in order to pass on that information and skills knowledge.
Yeah, and I think it's a very pressing point to touch on, because I think both Ashwin and Tam alluded to kind of the policies that are in place in East Asia and South Asia and across that diaspora, and also the infrastructure, and that those two aspects amongst the rest of the conversation, but those two seem to be driving the conversation there. A lot of the conversation over this side, again, based in the UK here as well, is a lot more around kind of the moral panic of AI, particularly in education. I think you touched upon it in asking me that question there. Are students utilizing AI in the right way? Have we actually had the conversation yet about what the right way is? For every person who evangelizes about the use of ChatGPT and how that can help, democratize and create more accessible entry into higher learning, at the same time, somebody's saying, well, it's replacing the actual skills that are required to engage with higher education. Personally, I'll probably get some splinters, but I'm going to sit on the fence and say it's neither, savior nor devil. It's, when used properly, another very, very good, powerful and instructive tool in the armory of educators and students alike. I think what is probably beneficial to us all in this is that AI is coming into its infancy, as you've now got a generation of teachers who are, broadly speaking, around my age. I'm mid-30s. They'll have done their teacher training a few years ago. They'll have grown up alongside the advent of the internet as it went through its kind of difficult teenage period, and Web 2.0, potentially bordering on Web 3.0, and all that entails. But you've got people who've grown up alongside an emerging technology who are probably, in terms of the skill set and open-mindedness, best placed to look at how best AI can be utilized in a classroom environment, in a workplace, in a corporate environment, and so on. So given, the faith I have in my generation and those who went on to be educators as such, and how we grew up alongside a technology that was growing up alongside us, I believe we've got the right people on the ground to deliver that. It's where does that policy come from behind it? How are we going to look to utilize it and trust those people to deliver it within the educational sphere?
Great. Before we go to the comments and some questions that have come from the audience, I think Tam has a case study that she can share about teacher training for Gen AI as well. So Tam, over to you.
I think you're muted again, Tam.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So this is some very good case study commenting and following Tom's point about the importance of teachers training. Actually, for Asia country, I think that Vietnam is very similar to other countries, that there's a lack of teachers, quality teachers, especially in remote areas. And also right now, for example, in my country, even though we have the policy of including computer science as a required subject for general education to prepare the future workforce, we lack the quality IT teachers that really have these skills. So we really rely on the EdTech, the private initiatives and sectors, including more than 700 EdTechs in our country. And then different initiatives, including, like I just previously mentioned, for example, applications that use voice recognition to help personalize learning. So it reduced the number of native teachers that required to really teach students how to pronounce English and conversation in English. And regarding training teachers to teach with AI, especially generative AI, we have another case study of a program called STEAM for Vietnam. And this is a program that run entirely by volunteers, including about 200 volunteers that include many Vietnamese experts and students who are working globally in international institutions, research, and enterprises working in AI. So they come together and share the courses for free of charge to millions of Vietnamese children and teachers in massive online open course format. And they also partner with UNICEF and our local Ministry of Education and Training to promote this free program for teachers. And for example, this summer, they averaged to 7,000 teachers, 4,000 schools, and reach 1% of national teachers. And we have teachers from kindergarten, early childhood education, until learning and developing officers, higher education colleges. So this is a very good models that I think could be replicate. And then they also promote the motivation of learning about these skills among among teachers and students with challenges and competitions like robotics challenge. So this is something very important to think about, that teaching about AI and with AI requires some creativity to utilize resources when we lacking quality teachers.
Excellent, brilliant. Thanks so much, Tam. And Naila, just wanted to hear your side of things when, educating in the medical domain, because of course people keep upskilling and retraining and, having to learn new procedures and things like that. Lifelong learning, I think, is very key in the healthcare domain. Any thoughts on that when it comes to the use of AI as well in there?
Yeah, two things. One is that the speed of change in medical knowledge is so massive that, there's a study that had proposed that it takes it takes a very short time. I think 3 days was the last that was reported for the whole of medical knowledge to duplicate, while there was a time many years ago, 50 years ago, when it would take 50 years for the amount of medical knowledge that was there at that point to duplicate. Now it is only days, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is even less than that now. So how do we teach and train our future healthcare professionals, medical education, keeping up with this massive. So obviously you can't expect the human brain, the cognitive abilities of the human brain to know everything. So first of all, setting the curriculum is absolutely essential. And I've been a champion of introducing healthcare technology in the medical curriculum, because you have to know how to use the technologies which will be part and parcel of the devices that we use, and the way we teach. And also remember, I mean, I'm a generation, what am I, generation X, while as we are dealing with generation what? The latest generation, 20-year-olds, generation Z. Yeah, they are the generation Z. And very soon we will have generation Alpha. They are 11-year-old right now, but very soon we will have generation Alpha. So they will know more about technology than us. So in a way, we have to learn the language that the new generation is more familiar with. And definitely technology has got a huge role. If you look at a patient journey, the first thing is patient gets some symptoms. So there is, a differential diagnosis that needs to be made. So there is triage. Then there is the diagnostics. Which diagnostic test is most appropriate? Which, medication will be the most appropriate out of all the studies that are done, which will be the most appropriate. So we talk about precision medicine. We talk about preventative medicine now. So it's not that someone becomes ill and then we start treating people. We actually look at prediction of who is more likely to get what, depending, and all that, like my colleague said, data analysis. So capturing of data, instead of having those Excel sheets and someone manually putting, we have automated systems. Then artificial intelligence is used to actually clean the data. So all these huge tasks that were done manually now have been replaced with a very big, very quick speed into technology enablement. So there's a huge potential. The only thing that in every talk I do raise is the lack of governance, the lack of ethics. What is the medical ethics guideline for use of artificial intelligence? And many countries have shied away from it. Nobody wants to put their, to commit themselves. Although recently I've seen something that has come out which people are looking at as a template to adopt according to their local circumstances. So that is something good to give reassurance to the stakeholders.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Naila. And indeed, you're right. In the medical sphere, you need to keep on learning. You need to be able to use the data, if we can use AI, to help us, get to decision-making more quickly instead of doing a lot of things manually. That's obviously very efficient and productive. And we've seen it ourselves as well when we have used our AI teachers in the medical training sphere as well. They can keep up to date with the latest technologies and the techniques much, much quicker than going on to specific courses. Ashwin, I see you were nodding a lot when Naila was talking about a point. So coming to you first, and then Tam, I think, had some points to add too.
Yeah, I think the point on the difference between generational expectations is well made. That although I think that the different generations do have different expectations and different affinities for technology, there are also differences in appetite for risk, differences in things like, let's say, attention span, when we are looking at access to a technology versus engaging critically with some literature, for example. These might be very different things. And regardless of what the technology is, or whether we're working in a school or university environment or working in a corporate environment, there's always this role of folks who've been around a little bit longer and who understand things like governance and security, and spending a little bit of time with the technology to get the correct answer, or the most pragmatic answer, or the most useful answer. These kinds of things don't just happen overnight. There's an interplay between generations where each generation helps the other to reach something that is most valuable. And there are things we don't understand, like Tom said earlier, what's the right way to use this? I think we can lay down the principles of use the technology, but also engage the brain in critical thinking, and somehow we'll get the right answer out of it. But we need to work together across the generations to make that happen, I think.
Yeah, well said. We're coming back to that. What is the right way in a minute? First, I think Tam wanted to add something as well.
I want to add one thing about using AI in higher education, especially for specialized field like medical field. In University of Oulu, where I'm studying right now, we have a human AI. We call it hybrid intelligence research center, and in that there's a really big group that right now doing research about application of AI to help train the future of medical students. And they use AI not just generates, because AI, it's a broader term, and not just generative AI. So there's a lot of other artificial intelligence that could actually help the students to get the practice, for example, combination of simulation, the virtual reality, and also with tracking data to be able to give feedback for the students. So actually it helped the medical students to improve their social emotional skills when interact and empathy with the patient. And I think that's something that I found really promising in the application of new technology like AI to help improve the learning and also the quality of specialized field that requires a lot of practices in the field. But in the past, it was very challenging, given the fact that the lack of facilities or opportunities for the students to have practices. So I think that it's a very great opportunity there.
Great, thank you. Just want to come back to, I think Tom was the first one who mentioned it, what is the right way? And we have quite some comments from the audience as well, where Dave is asking exactly, what is the right way? What is right now? What would be right in a few years' time? And you sort of, who determines that then? And Jenny adds to further to that, do we know what the right way is? And also on the different side of thing, who is the best facilitator to make those decisions? Or if we're using AI the right way, who decides that? So maybe Tom, since you brought it up first, coming to you first for some thoughts. So probably there might not even be a right answer yet, but I think it's worth discussing this, because we also see from the audience that they're very keen on hearing your thoughts on that.
I was going to say it feels like a bit of a hospital pass, that one, but I'll try my best. Ultimately, I am not the arbiter of who gets to decide the right way, and I will have my opinions, as will the rest of our panelists, as will people with a far greater say in these matters than any of us. I'm a bleeding heart liberal, and therefore I believe that it should be democratically decided. Let's look at it from within the sphere of higher education, because that's where I'm coming from with this. And granted, it's going to apply across multiple spheres and sectors. Higher education has done relatively well in the UK to self-regulate over its entire lifetime. Yes, we have the Department for Education, we have the Office for Students, and other related bodies that do cast an eye over what's going on. But by and large, universities and higher education learning has been broadly left to its own devices, and has proven to, in more often than not times, thrive under self-regulation. Thus, the higher education's sector's usage of AI, I think, should broadly follow similar terms. Democratise decision-making based on institutions themselves, both senior leadership within that, lecturers who are physically having to facilitate that learning to the students, but also engaging with the students themselves, bringing the National Union of Students into that conversation, bringing student bodies within university to that, because ultimately they're not only going to be on the receiving end of any AI teaching, but they're best placed to answer the second half of, I think it was Dev's question, what might that look like in 5 years' time? Because they'll be the ones graduating into this AI, if not led world, then increasingly AI-centric world. And they will be the ones, answering that question through the work that they're doing, through the types of jobs that are becoming available, through their own utilization of AI in, as cliche as it sounds, creating jobs that literally do not exist whilst we're having this conversation. So personally, for me, within higher education, I'd like to see that be a democratically guided decision, in line with, of course, any type of government policy, because ultimately I do feel a lot of that, again, speaking only for the UK here, has felt a little bit lacking in terms of what is the UK's AI policy. At this point, I think a lot of people will be hard pressed to answer it. So it'd be interesting to see where that goes and how that drives, that next 5 years and beyond.
Excellent. Naila, you raised your hand. I think you wanted to add something to what Tom is saying.
Yeah, I would like to respond to that. That definitely, like, I was alluding to before, that the biggest thing is the governance that is missing, a unified governance. For example, if we have to make a decision about what is the best treatment or what is the best way of doing surgery for a particular problem, have we come to this conclusion that the hysterectomy, let's say, is done in this manner? It is because a lot of experts came together and they charted out that this is the way it should be done and this is the safest way it should be carried out. So I agree with my colleague who said that, is Sam, isn't it, Sam? That we need to have consensus. But again, if you look at the example, when these calculators came, let's go back in education, calculator comes in. There were some people who were of the thought that, this will really discourage the student to use their own abilities, and ultimately then they were allowed. Similarly, the computer, similarly, the other thing. So we are at a kind of, a turning point where this technology is now the new thing. No, it's not actually a new thing. It's been there since 1950s, but it is now really found its place, and it has got a great potential. If we go through in the UK, I'm telling you the UK story, look at COVID. What happened before COVID in the NHS? We kept, myself personally, kept requesting, why don't we do video consultation, which was being done in many countries, telemedicine, similarly, other specialities in Australia, in America, many countries. But in UK, there was a lot of resistance, that privacy and this not. As soon as when COVID came, it took them less than 48 hours to give the permission that we are able to do telemedicine. So it took an unfortunate crisis for shifting. Now, my only request would be that whatever way we choose to find our governance agreement, it needs to be done very quickly. China is way ahead, 30 years. I read a paper only yesterday, 30 years ahead in adapting technology in their educational programs. And the reason is that their transformational change cycle is much, much quicker than many of the Western countries.
Thank you so much, Naila, for bringing those points. Tam, what about your thoughts on what is the right way or who is the arbitrator in that case?
I think that this is a really, really big question that I have been keep asking myself since 2017 when I heard about the first the robot citizens released Sophia at that time. For me, but from researching and also working, really try to educate myself, even though that my background was not really in technology, but I think that the right way to do it for me right now is actually, we do not have the right answer, but we can predict some risks based on the past technology, and the closest to something that's disruptive as generative AI specifically, or AI is social media or internet. And I think that in specifically teaching and learning landscapes and also students, I think one of the biggest risks will realize similar to social media. It's about well-being. It's about mental health issues, about the limitations of social interactions, and interfering with students who are in very critical development point, for example, teenagers and and when they are in teenagers year, were introduced firstly to mobile phone with social medias, and that creates a lot of mental health issues for the generations. Similar for generative AI, with students who are in this like that stage, being exposed to chatbots that can be your artificial friends and talk, and then even I have students can chat like 4 hours per day with the chatbot, and they don't have the needs to talk with friends anymore. So that is the risk I think that we can learn from the past, and from that it requires adults, requires the people that are working closely to the next generation, including teachers and parents, to be able to have guiding and really keep the human connections with together, and then reflect together experiences, so that we can update about the both opportunities and challenges, and also risks. So that is, for me, the right way for me right now. It's to maintain continuous reflections and discussions together in our community, and self-regulations. It's the key skills to teach to young generation. The second point I would like to also comment on, it's who will be responsible for the governance of AI. I think that everyone has talked about government policies, etc. But for me, I think that also, again, learning from social media, always policies and governments will go like a little bit later than real technologies. And actually, technologies is developed really fast by big corporations, and the motivation behind the development of technology, mainly it's for profit first, and then innovation, doing something new and disruptive, and it is up to individual. I think that for this high speed of developing, everyone is responsible to make sure that our own use, we need to educate ourselves, even if it's a new things, and it may seem scary, and it may seem a little bit of a lot of work to do, but it's necessary and very important, so that we can maintain our agencies in this new AI era.
Excellent. Thank you, Tam. Going to you, Ashwin, to follow up on that, but also linking it a little bit back and pointing out to a question that Akil asked a while ago: how can we use AI for cheaper, as it's very expensive for us in Asia? So maybe we can focus slightly on that as well for our last sort of 10 minutes that we have left.
Yeah. So I'll come to the what is the right way first.
Yes.
I think that question needs a little bit of nuance. So the right way is probably not easy to answer, as we've all discussed, but we know what the wrong way is. We know what the emerging ways are, and we don't yet know what the optimal ways are. So the wrong ways are where we would breach security, for example. We would give away company secrets. We would breach the privacy of personal data. These are things that are fairly well established in regulatory environments already. It's not specific to AI. These things have been out there for many, many years. So we know if we were to do things like that, we would be using AI in the wrong way. And let's talk about AI and generative AI kind of together in that bucket. The emerging areas are where we would need to be using the new technologies that we have in a way that's respectful, for example, to ethics or copyright law or appropriate citation or things like this, which are the principles that we think we know, but actually some of the use cases that are emerging are new to us, and we're still debating those in the legal sphere and in society. Neither of those really give us an indication on what the optimum way to use things are, but it gives us an indication of where the boundaries are for us to play right now. And then as we get better at this, as new technologies come out, we can start to make decisions on a case-by-case basis. But I think having these established principles of we're going to act in a way that's correct in terms of privacy and security and morality and ethics and copyright and all of these things. I think these are good guardrails for us to use when we're starting to decide what the right way is. Right. The cost of cloud computing, I think, is the other question.
Yes, and that also then leads to accessibility, of users using AI tools. So I think they go a bit hand in hand. But happy to hear your thoughts on that first, and then we'll probably move to Tom next.
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of aspects of that. So one is the passage of time means that the costs of cloud computing come down. And if we think about the GPT models, OpenAI and Microsoft, some of those models have evolved to be cheaper in terms of access, cheaper in terms of subscriptions, in terms of tokenization, in terms of training. And that's large language models. We also have the potential for small language models, which are cheaper in terms of cost and cooling and electricity and all of these things, which large language models require a lot of. We also have local language models. So in India, there are Indic language models, for example. So it might be worth looking at Asia-specific language models or Asia-specific AI, which might be a software as a service thing that you buy that is leveraging a large language model that's local to the area. And they would be different language capabilities, for example. So AI generally as a term is a little bit expensive if you're going for the big 1, 2, 3 models. But when you start to explore the startup space, you start to explore different language model capabilities and different software as a service capabilities, then you can explore how the costs come down for usage. The last point on that is, of course, that when you buy traditional platforms, you tend to sign up for a 2, 3, 5-year deal, and you get a cost based on that. AI isn't priced in the same way. You pay on a monthly basis, you pay for a little bit, and then you stop. So these are different ways you can make every pound or every dollar that you have stretch a little bit further.
No, thank you, Ashwin. Very good points there. Tom, I think you wanted to add something as well. I saw you nodding.
Yeah, thank you. I think as much as we'd like also to think about the ways that we can help contribute to that, there is still a lot of this that's going to be fundamentally out of our control. You just have to, for those who follow the stock market, they may have seen what's happening with Nvidia's stock price over the last couple of days. And a kind of a glib answer to all of this question is basically just it's up to Jensen Huang to decide what happens next, because with Nvidia controlling such a high percentage of the market for AI right now, that is going to dictate a lot of the direction of travel. Dr. Ashwin's absolutely right. In terms of Moore's law, we will see things like the double in speed, half in price, double in half in size. As just time passes, that is a fundamental concept that will occur. But we're also at the mercy of kind of greater global macroeconomic and political trends, because I've explicitly talked about China a lot today. And whilst Chinese relations with the West and with the US in particular remain frosty, shall we say, that may prove to have an outsized impact on how AI, and by AI I particularly mean Nvidia again here, will be able to proliferate and grant access. We know that with its last set of chips, for example, because of various trade embargoes, Nvidia basically made 2 sets of the same chip, one that was specifically for the China market. It's got Blackwell, which is its next big chip, on the horizon. Are we going to see similar moves there, even as it doubles in computing power? So a lot of it does rest with this kind of pseudo monopoly that Nvidia does have, that powers a lot of what we've said today and powers a lot of what's behind what we've said today. I do think ultimately, like any market, we will see proliferation as more players come into it. But certainly for the short to medium term, Nvidia's domination in that does dictate the direction of travel.
Yeah, well said, Tom. Thank you for that. I want to slightly shift to a comment that someone has made online that links also to accessibility of AI, the use of AI in a different way. So Maria has asked, how can we, train teachers, but also design the curriculum for children and use AI in that when it comes to remote areas where they may not be able, to physically go to school or talk to their teacher. So Naila, I'm coming to you first, and then Tam, some comments from you as well would be appreciated.
So the challenge being that if there is, I was just reading a report from World Bank which said that Asia has got 35% of people have access to internet compared to 80% in the West. So if you look at those figures, it's quite depressing that if there is no internet access, then we can forget about anything further than that. But on the ground, I feel that there are areas where there is a massive difference between, the accessibilities, and those people who have accessibility, they have used it in a way to, deliver the benefits in areas where there is no accessibility. I'll give you an example that when it was COVID, we started doing telehealth. I was involved in helping an NGO in Pakistan with telehealth. The problem was the most remotest areas, for example, in Balochistan, etc., where the accessibility of internet was not there. They devised vans with special. I'm not a technician, but there were certain ways of getting access to the internet through a second or third transmission, through which we were able to get to those remote areas. So here is where the partnership and collaboration between the educationists or the healthcare providers and the technology expert comes in, that how can we overcome that. So I think this is more, and also the role of NGOs. The NGOs have played a huge role where governments, because of their inertia, their policies, their inter country, friction, NGOs have actually overcome that and delivered. I've seen that in recent conflicts in the Middle East. I've seen that in Syria and in Iraq as well, where we have managed to deliver in remote areas where technology, had to be used in a different way.
Thank you so much, Naila. Tam, any quick points from you on this?
Thank you so much, Dr. Naila. I think that it's very lucky that particularly my country has pretty high penetration of internet. More than 75% of people have access to internet, and also more than 168% have active mobile devices. So it really, the infrastructure and the access to the basic internet is very crucial. But in terms of training teachers and also to teach AI literacy and I would say computer thinking to students in areas where they lack the access to internet or even like computers, etc. There's 2 points I would like to make. First, I think for education, it is very important that we understand what the students need to learn for. So their surrounding environment and what they learn for needs to help them to adapt to their living environment and also prepare them for future also. So for the children in those areas, for example, in our country, we have also programs that focusing for younger generation in K-12, training teachers and students with mindset first, and also using tools that, for example, portable robots that they can run by themselves, that they can learn even coding, and also through games, basic concepts of computer and computer thinking using games, even like simple games like human. You can teach a child basic computer thinking by simple games like directions of a person throughout a map on the playground. So it's very important that we train teachers to have the ability and creativity and the better pedagogy. So given different circumstances, teachers still can be creative and find. The second, this idea I about the STEAM for Vietnam project. It's a nonprofit. I say that areas and who lack resources, utilizing resources such as organizations, and or my is even Vietnamese people around the world to give back to the local communities and provide free training and resources. For example, having a van on like mobile van to go to different places to organize quick training sessions for teachers and children. Those are some ideas that we can implement.
Thank you so much, Tam. We're getting close to the end of our panel discussion today, but looking at the comments from the audience, it seems like accessibility and the usage of AI were big themes coming from some of the comments that we were able to discuss today. And that leads me sort of to my final question, particularly for Ashwin and Tom, because you both have talked about this a little bit earlier. What about running AI on edge? If I speak for ourselves at Otermans Institute, we know it's possible, but what do you think the challenges are here, also in contrast to what you both discussed earlier in relation to, internet access, cloud costs? So I'll give you both 30 seconds to give your thoughts on this, and then we wrap up for today. I think, Ashwin, I'm going to start with you, if that's all right.
Yeah, so just to clarify for everybody, when we say we're talking about edge, we're talking about something that runs on a device rather than something that runs on the cloud. So there are benefits in terms of bandwidth usage. There are benefits in terms of security, proximity to data collection, and reducing latency and things like that. In environments where you could be out in the field, you could be away from infrastructure, you could be thinking about cost, you could be thinking about conservation of power. Running edge is probably a highly advantageous way to scale and ensure access to artificial intelligence in these environments.
Brilliant. Tom, your final 30 seconds on edge AI and potential, looking at cloud compute and internet accessibility.
Can I just say I agree with Dr. Ashwin? Because, I think it's a bit glib, but I think we're a little way off that yet. We're seeing kind of halfway house versions of that right now. Google has integrated Gemini into its Pixel phones, but it says it's come to the phone, but it's still being run off the phone. You can video boost using their AI, but that still involves the video being sent to Google servers and coming back. So it's kind of a little bit smoke and mirrorsy right now, not exactly edge. I think it's going to be a little while yet before we see a consumer in the wild version of things running on edge. Purely because we're still having this entire conversation today about, the early days of AI and the power and everything that's needed for that, let alone then capturing that in the palm of your hand, quite literally. So a nice idea. I think it will come, but I think we're a way off.
Brilliant. Well, I would like to thank all our panelists for their great contributions today. So thank you, Tam, Tom, Dr. Ashwin, and Dr. Naila. Audience, thank you for joining. Thank you for giving all your comments. Feel free to continue the conversation, offline, online on LinkedIn, but no longer in this webinar today. If you have any questions, also feel free to email us at info@oiedu.co.uk or get in touch through social media, whatever is your preferred way of getting in touch. And just to let you know, the next panel discussion webinar will take place on August 22nd. So do keep an eye out for that. And yes, it was lovely to have you all here today. And I think we all share what we do at OI as well to empower teaching and learning through the use of AI. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Through the use of AI. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Through the use of AI. So thank you very much.